Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and generate more leads, more sales, more profits. More importantly, so you can go out and have a bigger reach, a bigger impact, and make a bigger contribution. Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that gives you inspiration, transformation, and customization to help you grow your business with a lot less stress. Let me ask you, are you wondering, maybe quietly, maybe in hiding, oh my gosh, what should I do right now in the market? What should I do as far as investing? How can I make sure to safeguard my potential wealth? How do I make sure I don't lose in the market? Well, guess what? If any of those questions are something you're thinking about right now or feeling, first of all, it's understandable. Number two, we have got one of the leading experts available today to share with you how you can do smart investing, what it takes to get started, how to be able to eliminate your risk, how to be able to overcome some of the fear, concern, overwhelm related to smart investing. Is that what you want? Well, if that is what you want, then tune in. If that's not what you want, well, you might want to go find, I don't know, a Netflix series or something. I'm not sure. Our guest expert today, his name is Brian Bogaert. He's a mentor, wealth coach, and speaker that helps you overcome fear, risk as on your investing so you can be financially free and quite possibly get yourself out of the rat race for good. So, Brian, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, Dan. Thanks very much for having me on. I'm super excited. As you know, entrepreneurs are one of my favorite groups to talk to because they're great at making money, not so necessarily good at keeping it and investing it after. So yeah, really excited to be here today.
Awesome. And we have Matt Johnson to thank for our connection and introduction a few months back. And Matt, that's a shout out to you. And also, if you want to hear the episode with Matt, go to growthtofreedom.com, type in episode, search Matt Johnson. You can hear our interview and conversation, which was a lot of fun as well. So Brian, let's dive into it. So you're a mentor, you're a wealth coach and speaker that helps people, essentially with smart investing to look at getting financially free and get out of the rat race. So why are you doing what you're doing today?
Well, Dan, going back quite a few years now, almost 20 years ago, I was smack dab in the middle of the rat race myself, working in the corporate world. I like to say I got my Matrix t-shirt on today. I like to say I was living the Matrix, right? So I was very much like Mr. Anderson from the Matrix. I had a good life. A lot of people would want my life, but it wasn't satisfying. And so I took steps over the next few years to become Neo and get out of the Matrix. But then, the kind of investing that I do, I'm not a day trader. I'm not even in stocks and that sort of thing. And so I had time on my hands. And more people were saying to me, Brian, you need to show people what it is that you're doing. You need to teach and mentor people what you've learned through all these investments, because people just don't know this and they're not learning it from their banks and their advisors and in the media and that sort of thing. So about 8 years ago, I thought, yeah, you know what? It is time to give back, which is a strong value of mine. And so I opened up my coaching business where now I show other people how to get in and out of the Matrix. That's why I've become Morpheus. I've done the whole transformation through the Matrix series. And now I show other people how to become free.
That's amazing. Get out of the investing matrix and get into you have a choice as you're watching today. You can choose the blue pill or you can get the red pill. Which will you choose? Well, ideally, by the time we're done, you're going to choose the one that is right for you. So, Brian, what are some, as you've been doing this and helping lots of people with their investing and getting free from the day to day, what are some of the big mistakes or misunderstandings or myths, if you will, that you see that most people have around investing?
Well, I think probably the biggest one right away is just that people believing that they can hand over their financial freedom to somebody else, which is, of course, what the banks and advisors would love us to believe, right? Oh, just get on our website, answer 3 questions, and we'll take care of everything for you. Well, this is a myth, right? The example I like to use is, can you imagine having a baby And when that baby was a couple of weeks old, you drove down the street to a daycare and you said, okay, here's my son. He's a couple of weeks old. Please look after him. I'll come back after 30 years and hopefully he'll be a good adult. Right? That seems ridiculous, but that's exactly what people do with their savings and their retirement plan. They hand it off to somebody else who's just an employee and isn't any better off than they are. And then they cross their fingers that 20, 25, 30, 35 years later, they're going to be able to retire. So that's one of the biggest myths, whether it be your health, whether it be your finances, whether it be your business. At the end of the day, you're the one that has to be the shepherd of your results and take responsibility. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, and it doesn't have to be a full-time job, but it is ultimately your responsibility.
Yeah. And there's a big difference, Brian, and I've heard you reference this in different ways, but a way that kind of connects for me is, you can delegate something and then you can abdicate something. Right. And abdicate is basically I think, a degree of what you're describing here. Oh, just handle it for me. Right. We see this in our business where people come in and we go in and as a fractional CMO and CEO team, and they just, oh, you do it. Well, no, it's a collaboration, right? It's a collaboration in how we show up together. Yeah, we'll get it all done, but we got to have the right blueprint first that also is based on you, your values, what you want, the systems you want, the things you don't want, and a whole lot more. Can't just read someone's mind, right? Navigate it. So there is a personal responsibility. If I hear you right, you're kind of describing, the idea of delegate it is fine, but just don't abdicate it. Oh, go handle it for me and I'll check in with you once a month or something crazy like that.
Absolutely. We just like in your business, there are opportunities for partnerships. I invest with people. I have groups where I'm not doing all of the work. I'm investing with them. But ultimately, like you said, Dan, it's still about my goals and my preferences and my results, because, nobody is going to work as hard for my results as I am. And part of that is doing due diligence on the people that I'm going to partner with, that I'm going to invest with, not just go to one little 1 hour meeting and get a glossy brochure and then hand them over, a couple of $100,000, right? So absolutely, we're on the same page around this.
And I've heard other interviews you've done as well, Brian. And to me, it sounds like, the surface level of this is this idea of abdicate it versus delegate it, or hand over your freedom to someone else to run it for you. You allude to like a deeper issue though, and I would call that an emotional issue. Speak to that a little bit, the way you describe it.
So Dan, yeah, this is such a fundamental piece for what I do in my coaching. So, you remember the show, The Biggest Loser? It was really popular, about a decade or so ago.
Yes.
I watched a few of those episodes when it was on. And one of the things that really struck me was it wasn't about a lack of information, a lack of diets, a lack of exercise plans. That wasn't what was keeping people overweight or causing them to get overweight in the beginning. It was all about emotional issues within themselves and whether or not they had a mindset towards being healthy and the weight that they wanted to be. And I never forgot that. And when I got into, doing money coaching and wealth coaching, I wondered, is that the same thing that's going on when it comes to money and finances? And having done this now for 8 years with, thousands of people and talking to them about money and creating wealth, I can absolutely say yes. And the mindset piece is so gigantic. And I'll tell you something, Dan, when I started this, I thought the biggest reason why people were struggling around money is because they had a lack of really good information and a lack of resources. But what I found out was it's actually not that. It's because of all the shame and the guilt and the pressure that they're carrying around money and finances. There's so many people out there that have the capacity and the intelligence and the wherewithal to start investing, but they never get started because of the guilt and shame that they're holding. And that's why for me, the mindset piece is always where I start with all the clients that I work with. It's not, it's not huge. I'm not a therapist, right? But we're at least going to address that and help uncover what might be going on in your mindset that's keeping you in scarcity rather than leading you to wealth and abundance.
So what could someone do, that might be watching right now, Brian, or listening right now, who might be saying, okay, I pick up what you're laying down, Brian. It's all, yeah. And you know what? And they look in the mirror and they go, yeah, I've got something blocking me from childhood trauma, or, you know, our family lived in poverty or scarcity or this or that. And I was kind of trained by my parents, and they recognize that, or their grandparents and the depression and blah, 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 all those sorts of things. What's a step someone could take to, you know, release guilt, shame, misunderstanding in your mind? Like, what's a step? Yeah, I know you have many steps, but what's a step? Yeah.
This is an easy one. You talked about Netflix. So, you know, this weekend we got coming up, instead of binging another 4 hours of Netflix, they can do this exercise. And this is one of the exercises I do with new clients. So I ask people to sit down and write out, what are your memories and experiences, and especially the things that stand out to do with money, finances, anything like that, and do it into 3 categories. So the first one is like childhood. So, you know, that would be like 18 and below, right? A teenager and a kid. What do you remember? What are the really poignant kind of experiences? And what was it like in your household around money? Was that something that your parents fought over? Did you get an allowance? Did you have to work your butt off and then not even get an allowance? What were your experiences around money? Then do the same thing for sort of young adulthood. So about, you know, 17 to 25, and then do it again as an adult. Okay, now I'm over 25. What are my experiences around money? And just write this out. Don't filter yourself. Just sit down and do it in a quiet area by yourself. Sometimes like tears start to flow, anger starts to come out when they really start to look back at their life and what were the experiences. And sadly, most people out there did not get an abundance mindset as kids. Right? I would say 90% of my clients got the work hard, save your money, don't spend, and one day it's going to pay off. That was usually the mindset that everybody got as a kid, especially if they had conservative parents. Okay. Or sometimes you get the ones where mom and dad went bankrupt several times over. They were total spendthrifts, you know, this up and down roller coaster. Anyway, as you go through that exercise, you're going to start to be able to look at, oh, no wonder I behave the way that I do around money and finances. Look at the programming that I got. We're not trying to blame anyone. It's not about, you know, making mom and dad the bad guys, or aunts and uncles, or the church, or whatever, right? But it's just about recognizing what were some of those things. Then if you want to take it a step further, call up your brother or your sister, or talk to your spouse or somebody who knew you during those times and review that with them and see what they remember about that sort of stuff. And what you'll wind up getting there is sort of a blueprint that explains a lot of how you behave today. And you really want to look for patterns, because that's the thing that, you know, people start every new year. This year, I'm going to get rid of my debt, and I'm going to get my savings up, and I'm going to pull the trigger on my first investment. And November, December rolls around and nothing has happened. And that's because of these emotional blockages. So that's an exercise people can do by themselves, and you know, solicit someone to help them who knows them really well. At least you're going to get a picture of what your mindset probably looks like.
And that's such great advice. And as you're watching or listening right now, I challenge you to write down what Brian shared with you. And by the way, you can come back to this episode at growthtofreedom.com, and you can also get the transcripts, get the notes, get the show notes. If you're just catching this somewhere, type in Brian Bogaert in the episode list, search it, so you can get access to the questions he just asked, right? Which are related to, what were your memories around finances, money, and wealth in your childhood, in your middle age, young adulthood, and then your adulthood? And what are those beliefs surrounding it? Because here are the facts. Your wealth will only reflect your identity. And what this will help you do is put a mirror to understand where you've been with your identity. And then here's the beautiful thing for freedom. You can pivot it. You can shift it. You can transform it. If you want a breakthrough, be willing to break the old habit, the old way of thinking, or maybe potentially an old identity. He brought up the big loser. You see this with people who get lean and ripped. Their identity shifts, right? They no longer, Tony Robbins for years says you get what you tolerate. Well, if you get to a place where your identity, I don't want to tolerate being X, whatever X is for you, it's all relative to every person. So that's why I didn't fill it in and give you my version or Brian's version. This is your version of your better self. And today is the first day of your new self and the last day of your old self. If you do the proverbial thing, and that's take action. If you do nothing, guess what you'll get? Nothing, which is an identity issue too. But if you do take action, it begins. So Brian, let me ask you, as it relates to, the market and wealth and investing, and I know you've got all kinds of programs, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, how people can connect with you, because of course it's not a magic button. It's not a one size fits all. It's, there's all kinds of layers of this. But what are a couple strategies? So let's say we reshape our identity to get a healthy viewpoint of investing, smart investing, right? What do we do now, right? Right now we've got the market, some would say it's collapsing. Some are predicting the next couple of years is going to be pretty tough. What are a couple steps somebody can take in their investing model to, prevent losses as best as they can, minimize risks, and most importantly, the fear or overwhelm around investing in the first place?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give you a couple of strategies around that. So the first thing that I want to say is, again, going back to mindset, it really starts with a commitment. Okay. So, there needs to be a commitment to, as you were saying, Dan, and I could listen to you all day. It's like you do this for a living or something, motivate people and show them how to break through. So, I made a commitment that I was going to become financially free so I could leave the corporate world, right? And that became my guiding star, if you will, of what I was working towards. And all of my decisions from that point, I was able to ask myself, is this going to take me closer to my goal of becoming free, or is it going to take me further away? But I took the judgment out of it. There was no guilt. There was no shame. There was no, this is bad, this is wrong, that sort of thing. It was just a simple question. Is this going to take me closer to that freedom or further away? And so then I had a decision-making process for everything that I was doing, because I'm not one of these people that believes that, now you have to live like a college student again in order to make your dreams come true, and you can't have any fun and you can't have nice things. No. That's I drive my dream car. I'm moving to an acreage out west. I still believe in living now as well. But that's one of the first things, is make that commitment. So a lot of the listeners out here, if they're working for a job, then one of their paradigms is to trade time for money. And so a decision that they might make right here, right now, and a commitment is, I am going to stop working time for money, and I am going to start to find a way to build wealth instead, and leverage and that sort of thing. And this could apply to entrepreneurs as well, because there's lots of entrepreneurs out there that have just traded a job for working for themselves, and they're working more hours, longer hours for the worst boss in the world, because the perfection based, right, themselves. Okay. I like to say that entrepreneurship, you may have just switched prisons. It's got a nice foosball table and better wallpaper, but it's still a prison at the end of the day. So if you're working towards freedom, make that decision about stopping to swap time for money, and look for different ways to leverage and build wealth when you're sleeping, when you're eating, when you're vacationing, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's one thing that people need to switch that paradigm, because a lot of people right now will be like, geez, maybe if I go get another job or I get a raise at work. Nah, that's still in the same paradigm of trading time for money. Okay. The second thing that I want to say to people, and this comes back to, the markets, and this was a big switch for me. There's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. Okay. I promise you that in this so-called, now we're in trouble and maybe we're going to a recession and the markets are crashing. There are people out there that are making money hand over fist in any market. All right. And that's possible for me. That's possible for you. That's possible for the people watching and listening to this particular show. So that's another thing you got to pull. Stop being a media watcher. The media's job is to get your eyeballs, and they know that fear works the best to get your eyeballs. When COVID started, initially up here in Canada, we had a dip in real estate in the first couple of months. But then after that, month after month after month, real estate continued to set records, and the price increases have been phenomenal. But if you go back and look at the media headlines for every one of those months, it was all negative. Oh, the sky is falling, the bubble's about to burst, this can't continue, any day now it's all going to crash. That went on for like 20 months while real estate continue to set records month after month after month. Okay, so I promise you, guys like Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, Tony Robbins, they're not investing based on what they're reading in the media right now. What they are investing in is based on their goals and their needs and what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So here's another exercise that listeners can do. I want you to sit down and write out or type out your 1, your 5, and your 10-year goals for yourself. Okay, so again, do it in 3 different categories like that. Start with your first year goals. Where do I want to be a year from now? What do I want to be driving? What do I want to be eating? Who do I want to be hanging out with? What kind of place do I want to be living in? What kind of vacations do I want to go on? What kind of investments do I want to have pulled the trigger on? Okay, and then do the same thing for 5 years and then the same thing for 10 years. That's actually what should drive what you're investing in, not what some advisor tells you or what you're reading in the marketplace or what the price of Bitcoin is right now or what have you. It's actually based on your goals for the future. There's no such thing as a good investment. It's whether it's a good investment for you.
That is so good, Brian. That is so good. Now, as you're watching or listening right now, here's my question. What are you going to do with what Brian has shared with you? Number one, it's related to your commitment and mindset. Right? I encourage you, take action with what he's sharing with you. You know, is what you're doing with your investment or wealth strategy or your money strategy moving you further away or moving you closer to your goals, right? But here's the other thing. If we put a blindfold on me right now, spin me around and then say, hit that target, it's going to be pretty hard because I'm blindfolded. So are you also going to take action with the exercise of what is your 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, you know, and go deep as deep as you can. This is for you. It's your life. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to get creative and paint it in, you know, all kinds of decadent, rich, vivid colors? Or is it black and white with like 1-word answers? That choice is up to you. I would profess that my experience is those who get creative, who paint it in vivid colors with rich, decadent, mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, and financially, and get that 360 view, are those that typically will have the greater results over time, right? And so I encourage you to take action. Now, Brian, you've got all kinds of resources, right? To your point, here's the thing, as you're watching or listening right now, whether the market goes down, whether it goes up, there is a series of strategies that if you apply them will work in any market. One strategy won't work in an up market or a down market. The key is to find the strategy in that market that works, and then you apply it based on your goals, what you want, and so on. But here's your opportunity. You can take the blinders off. You can take the veil off. You don't have to, be hidden anymore. Yes, for a lot of people, finances or wealth building or the strategies the wealthy use has been hidden. It's hidden. And now it's hidden in plain sight because you've got a resource. So Brian, if people want to go deeper with you to learn more, check out your resources and such, how do they get in touch with you? How do they connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Just search on my name. Make sure you spell my last name right. I'm sure we'll have that in the show notes. People can always email me, go on the website. I mean, the basic way that people engage with me is through coaching programs. I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching where I have some specific programs that I do. Just launching one tomorrow on pre-con condo investing. Another couple of months, we'll be doing our next one on how to become an investor, more of the sort of general kind of course. I look at it as there's the undergraduate degree, and then we can start to get into the interesting master's courses after that, like specifically in something like pre-con or crypto or something along those lines. So that's the easiest way, is just reach out, connect with me on social media, which again, I'm sure we'll have in the show notes. Send me a question, send me a story. If any of this resonates with you, I love hearing about people's success story. And, Dan, I want to highlight again, taking action, right? And send me how you took action on what you learned on the show. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was my Bible that I started with almost 20 years ago. But I've heard Kiyosaki say many times, and I believe this, millions of people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Thousands have actually done something with it. right? So be one of those few thousand that actually takes action, that actually does something with this information, right? That was the thing that was lost in like The Secret and Manifestation, that if you just think about all this stuff, oh, it's gonna ring your doorbell. No, you got to go out and take action, and that's when it starts to show up. So I'm so glad you and I are on the same page around that.
So I want to encourage you to take action right now. If you want to connect with Brian, learn more about how you can be a smart investor, learn, smarter wealth strategies, investing strategies, look at how you can get rid of the baggage, eliminate fear, eliminate overwhelm, minimize risk around your smart investing strategies, and quite possibly get free from the rat race, then I want you to go to nlscoaching.com. That's nlscoaching.com. Yes, the links are in the show notes, but you can go right now to nlscoaching.com. Connect with Brian. You can also find him on Facebook, Brian, Bogaert. That's Bogaert. Again, all of this is in the notes as well, but you can take action now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Those who hesitate, what do they say? Opportunities are never lost. They're just passed on to someone else who's taking action now. So that being the case, take action now. Go to nlscoaching.com. Check out what Brian has available and see where it takes you. You just never know. You never know until you know. And what if it could be the solution you're looking for to make investing more instead of maybe it simplified it for you. Maybe it made it easier to understand. As you get a feel from Brian, you can see he's very simple and very easy to understand, with all kinds of ways he describes it. So go now, nlscoaching.com. That's nlscoaching.com. Now, beyond that action step, Brian, what are, as a result of our time together today, what action steps would you recommend our viewers, our listeners take to get the most from our time today?
Well, I think a big thing is, and you just talked about it, the feeling that most people have when they think about sitting down to talk about money or to look at their financial situation. I mean, we're as you and I talk right now, taxes are due pretty soon. And the idea of most people sitting down and looking at their financial information to do taxes, they'd pretty much rather do anything else in the world. But you can start to turn that around. You can start to make this an actual positive experience. They say the number one reason for divorce is financial reasons, right? Are you talking to your partner, your spouse, your family about money and finances, starting to share, starting to open up, starting to find out? So many people after they have a conversation with me say, oh, I feel so relieved. I thought you were going to tell me I was doing everything wrong. Right. And it blows my mind how intimidated people are about money. So what I would ask people to do coming away from this conversation is just be open to this idea. As you said, it can be, right. It can be enjoyable. I have clients now that, once every 2 weeks on a Sunday, they get a cup of coffee and they sit down and start talking about their investment plan and their finances. And it's a glorious, powerful, comfortable conversation that they have, and now they feel hopeful about the future rather than, oh no, it's just a matter of time until the landslide comes down or the sky falls and crushes me, right? I believe that if you aren't actively working your plan for wealth and abundance, then you're part of somebody else's plan for their wealth and abundance.
I don't think we could say that any better. And if you want to get control, confidence, certainty, direction, you've got an opportunity. And you can go learn more right now. Go to nlscoaching.com, nlscoaching.com. Apply what we've shared. You can come back to this episode at growthtofreedom.com. This just may be one of those segments where with a couple exercises that Brian's given you could set you free, whether you work with him or us or not. What a gift. What a gift. Now, Brian, what's something I should have asked you that we didn't get a chance to cover, in our time so far?
Well, it's interesting I bring this up because usually people, they want to dive into the what should I do around the market?
Tactics,
and
yeah.
that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, exactly, right. And as you can see, I'm much more than that, but I do love the tactics as well, right? So, let me talk about that for 2 seconds because right now you're right. The stock markets around the world are shuddering, where they're reacting to different things in the, wars and all that. But so here's something else that I want to share. I am not a stock investor. A lot of people are surprised to hear that when they'll start to ask me about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and EFTs and all that. And I say, actually, I don't invest in those things. I have invested in those things. I don't anymore. And the reason for that is through my own experience, I found that private investments, so things like real estate, private lending, now crypto over the last few years, I found that the returns were better and I could mitigate the risk much more dramatically than I could in the traditional investments. And what I've now come to learn over the past couple of years is these giant hedge funds and these giant pension funds are doing exactly the same thing. If you go back 20 years, they were 80% stocks and bonds and maybe 10 or 20% private investments. Now that ratio is more like 50-50, and in some cases even higher on the private investments. And when you ask these fund managers why, they say exactly the same thing. The returns are better, the risk is less. Why wouldn't we go with these more private investments? So that's something, again, in the media and the status quo, all you're going to hear about is the stock market. What I show people how to do is to get into that private investing market, to start to look at things like real estate, private lending, crypto. Those are the things that I'm investing in. So I don't really care what's happening in the stock market on a day-to-day basis. It's just not my cup of tea.
That is so good. So I want to encourage you again, if something that Brian has shared with you sparks your interest, if you're looking for a way to simplify investing, if you're looking for a way to eliminate, minimize fear, risk, overwhelm related to your investing, looking for new strategies to safeguard yourself, to protect, put a moat around your castle, for crying out loud, right? So you can set yourself up to be financially free. And what would that be worth for you and your family? That peace of mind, right? That you have control, that peace of mind to know that even if whether the market goes up or down, you're still having the ability to grow. How amazing would that be? Or to be able to set up your kids, or to be able to set up your kids' kids, like the wealthy do. Well, Brian's got the tools to help support you, to get you started on the right track, the right path to do that. So go check out nlscoaching.com. That's nlscoaching.com. And I'm curious, Brian, you brought up Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which has inspired a lot of us over the years. Who's been a mentor, favorite mentor, coach that you've worked with that's helped you in your journey doing this for as long as you have?
So I've been incredibly blessed. And again, that's why I like to talk about the matrix metaphor, because I've had a few Morpheuses in my life. Obviously, big names like the Tony Robbins, the Robert Kiyosakis, and another fellow by the name of Harv Eker, who I did some of his programs and read some of his books and went to a lot of his webinars. So those were definitely some of the sort of, more popular mentors. But I had people who showed up in my life and again, talk about the matrix. It turned out the guy I was sitting beside at work, whose name was Wade, when I was in my last corporate job, he was the one who got me into this. He was investing in real estate. And when I found that out, we used to have a joke when we would come to work on Monday. We'd say, "Hey, how's your tunnel out of prison coming?" Like, in the movies where the prisoner is digging a tunnel with a spoon, right? And putting the dirt out in the yard every day. So we had a joke about how our tunnel was coming. And then I found out that Wade's tunnel was investing in real estate in Calgary, where we both lived at the time. And so I joined forces with him. Then, and that's how we both retired from our corporate jobs 4 years later. But then I've had other mentors as well, a realtor, a friend, and an investment partner, Jesse, here in Toronto, where I live now, has been a huge mentor of mine. Other different groups I've been with. I have my crypto queen colleague, Kira, that I work with now. She's one of the ones who introduced me to crypto, and now we're doing master classes and stuff together. So I have truly been blessed by people who have shown up in my life when I asked for those people and I took action, and those people were then able to guide me, or I worked with them and did their programs and that sort of thing. And so now I'm a lifelong learner in that sense. I will always have those mentors and be part of mastermind groups and that sort of thing, because it enriches my life and it shows me the things that I don't already know, because I don't know everything.
And I think that's a great way to close this segment, this episode, this new release. And here's the facts as you're watching or listening right now, and you just heard Brian in his own way describe it in his own world. Making money is a team sport. However, delegate it. Don't necessarily abdicate it. Get control. And Brian's giving you access to some of the tools to get you on track, to take the first steps, to free yourself, to help you overcome and minimize risk and eliminate fear and eliminate lack of certainty or uncertainty, right? And you can go learn more by going to nlscoaching.com. That's nlscoaching.com. Take action with everything Brian shared with you. Apply what he shared. Thanks for listening to this episode of growthtofreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com.